Hello and welcome to SewTites Spotlight. I'm Tara Swiger. I'm the marketing coordinator here at SewTites, and I'm here with Belle of Seam Sew Me. Thank you so much for joining me, Belle.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tara. I'm excited to be here.
I'm such a fan of your work and what you do, and so
Oh,
I was excited to talk to you about it. Before we get started, I want to tell everybody who's watching, if you comment, any comment on this video, whether you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube, you will be entered to win the giveaway. At the end, we're going to give away a magnetic pin and snips holder. This has my snips on it. I actually use this all the time when I EPP. Just hold it right there for you. And people are always like, that's going to kill you, but it's far enough away from my neck. We're going to give one of these away today to someone who leaves a comment. So to start with, leave a comment, say hello and where you are watching from. And if you are watching the recording later, you won't be entered to win that, but we still want to know where you're watching from. And if you're watching live, you can also ask any questions you have for either me or Belle about what we do or anything we talk about today. So we love to see your comments. I'll pop them up on the screen. But to start with, say hi and where you're watching from. I am actually in East Tennessee. The weather's like 65 degrees today. It's February and weird. But I'm in the Appalachian Mountains. And you, Belle, you're in, where are you at?
well, I'm in the South too. So I am in West Central Arkansas. So I am in the Ouachita National Forest, which is kind of a tourist place. People love to come and do outdoor stuff. So I am about 30 miles from Hot Springs for people that
Okay.
are familiar with that, or an hour and 45 minutes from Little Rock, West Central.
Yes, I want to visit there. I was looking at your retreat center website and I was like, that looks gorgeous. And I was wondering how you said the Ouachita National Forest. I was not going to say it until I heard you say it because I was not
Well,
quite.
it's funny. I've got these little stickers, which I probably need to like put at the retreat center on how to pronounce it. Like it's literally, I'm looking at it over here on my board, and it's spelled Ouachita, but no one can ever say it. So
Yeah.
there's these stickers that are spelled out wash, like WASH,
Uh-huh.
AHTAW, so that
Yeah.
people can pronounce it. It's a tough one.
Ouachita. I love that. Oh,
Washita, Washita.
Ouachita. Okay. I'm going to practice that. Let's get started by telling us how you got started quilting and then the quilting business. Like, how did that path happen for you?
It's a wild story, and I wake up often and still in awe that like all of this has happened. So I started quilting at the start of the pandemic. So I'm in year 5. And I have another business in which I travel a lot and I do a lot of nonprofit consulting and training. So I do a lot of leadership training, a lot of board of directors training, a lot of work with CEOs, and go in and do a lot of conflict resolution, just helping nonprofits thrive. Well, when the pandemic happened, we were basically grounded. We could not fly anywhere. And so I was on Zoom 8 hours a day doing trainings, conference calls, team calls, all of that. And I was about to lose my mind. Now, at the time, I did not have a hobby other than I used to dumpster dive at granite shops. They would let me go into their big dumpsters, and my husband would help lower me in with gloves, and I would bring out big pieces of beautiful granite, and I would turn them into charcuterie boards that I would sell at a flea market. So that was like the only real hobby that I had besides flea marketing and thrift stores. That's always been part of me since I was a kid. My dad really put that in our blood. But I could not really go into the flea markets anymore. It was shut down. Like they were closed for a year because of COVID. So I was like, well, there goes that. So I had taught my little stepdaughter at the time, she was 9, to do to stitch, just to do some hand stitching. She would make little pillows for her lovey and things like that. And what happened was we ended up getting her a 1967 Janome New Home sewing machine. It was like in mint condition, but I didn't know it was in mint condition until we picked it up in a parking lot through Facebook Market. And she didn't want to learn to use it. Like I was going to give her lessons and said, this is how we don't sew through our finger. This is how we change the bobbin, but she just wasn't ready. So it was sitting in my office at home. And so I kept looking at it and going, you know what, as far as a hobby with COVID, maybe I'll learn to make something, right? The last time I'd used a sewing machine was in high school in the 80s. And it was sewing together a fuchsia Hanes t-shirt and a black Hanes t-shirt. You cut it in half and sew the bottom to the top. So we've got these 80s colors. That was the last thing I'd ever sewn. And my grandmother was a quilter, but she had never shown me how to quilt. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll learn to make a quilt. So I got on YouTube and I found Melanie K. Ham, and she didn't use a pattern. So I didn't know there were such thing as quilt patterns. I just learned how to construct the top, the middle, and the backing. And I used squares. I found charm squares on eBay because, you know, like you couldn't go into the stores at the time. And so I got those and I just made like a patchwork quilt. But the problem was I didn't order enough squares. So it was literally about this wide, the quilt was. So I was like, well, this isn't going to work. So then I got into another box of fabric that I had gotten on eBay and just sewed gingham around it. I mean, it was the craziest quilt, but I just got addicted from that point on. Like it just blew up from there.
I love it. That is so cool. And that's so recent. Considering your beautiful work, I would have thought you've been doing it for decades.
Well, I just absorbed everything I could. I mean, until I could get out and take classes, I think I started panicking a little bit. I'm like, at the time I was 45. Now I'll be 50 in April. And at the time I'm like, oh my goodness, I've lived like over half my life and I didn't learn to do this. I've got to like try to get it all in now. So I continue to learn. I continue, even though I focus my patterns on confident beginners, I just continue to learn from students when I teach at guilds or when I go to shows and I take classes myself. I love to learn. I'm a lifelong learner, I say.
Yeah, I love that. And so then how did your business come from that initial sad patchwork quilt?
Yeah. So then I got on Instagram and I opened up just a quilting Instagram account because at the time, in my former, before I started doing all of the contract consulting work with nonprofits, a small population that I work with are children's advocacy centers. I used to be a social worker. And so I got on Instagram, and that's how the name Belle came about. That's actually a nickname my husband gave me. It's not my legal name. And so I used the name Belle so that in my former life, when I worked with domestic violence victims and when I worked with child abuse survivors, it wasn't really kind of easy to find me because I was held hostage at one point early in my career by an offender for helping his wife get away and get a protection order. So I'm real safety conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used Belle, which is a nickname, and it stuck because there's not another Belle that I know of that's a quilt pattern designer. So I just started getting on Instagram, and I started noticing hashtags like quilt pattern tester and the names of quilts. And I started following along and realized that, oh my gosh, there's patterns. Like you buy these patterns and you can make, beautiful quilts. And
Yeah.
so then I was like, you know what? After I'd been sewing and making quilts, I was like, I think I want to design my own. Well, there's a whole lot more involved with that. I thought I'll just buy EQ8. I learned about that
Yeah.
and design it. And when I print it out, it will print out the finished pattern for me, directions and all. Well, you can imagine how disappointed I was. That is not what EQ8 does. And that I was going to have to write all the directions and do all the graphics and all of that. So I took the Quilter's Candy pattern writing course. It was like a 9-week course, really intensive, and learned, about marketing and what else involved and how to work with distributors and all of that. So that was in 2021.
Yeah. That is so cool. That is I love that you took a class to actually learn the process because I talked to a lot of designers who kind of trial and error it, like they think, oh, if I just make a pattern, it'll sell. And that's not how it works. I've been in marketing in the craft industry for over a decade, and like so many different kinds of designers think, "Oh, I'll just make a pattern and it'll sell." And I love that you took a class to
Mhm.
actually learn what the whole process is, and like working with distributors is a huge part of it. So
Yeah,
that's
it really was. And it was worth it. I mean, the course was not cheap. But that pattern is my Dueling Diamonds pattern that I launched. And
mhm.
I literally made back in 8 hours the cost of me to take that class. So,
Amazing.
that was a surprise. I mean, everybody was buying patterns because we were all just sewing, right during the
Yeah.
pandemic. So anyway, I came to learn later that that's kind of rare to do as well with one pattern your very first time. I didn't
Yeah.
have a frame of reference, but I was very grateful that people love it, and it's still my most popular selling pattern.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And then from there, when did the retreat center start? That's kind of new, isn't it?
Yeah, we just opened up this last, I guess it was kind of in the fall. I had a hysterectomy, so there was kind of a little bit of a pause. But so during the pandemic, my father, who's here, I was living in Missouri at the time, and he had decided to build an Airbnb, and I didn't know that he was going to do that. So when I did come to visit, finally, when it was kind of safe to get out and about, he had already laid the foundation for the Airbnb. And I grew up on 45 acres here in the forest on the Washita River. It's just beautiful. It was a great place to grow up as a kid, riding four-wheelers and motorcycles and swimming and catching bugs. And we have tons of crystals. The county here is the quartz crystal capital of the world. So people come from all over to dig crystals, and it's a great place. And so Dad was like, well, we'll just kind of open it up and share this little slice of paradise with others. Well, when I came to visit, I was like really, of course, into quilting. And I was like, Dad, how about instead of the garage over here where you got the foundation laid, that's just a whole literally retreat like studio that I could have 10 quilters in here. And he's like, okay, I've been watching you on Instagram. Like he's been one of my biggest supporters besides my husband. And I've always worked for someone in most of my jobs. So to see me as an entrepreneur and what I was doing, he was just like in shock, but he believed in me. And so he did. He changed the plans, and what looks like a garage from the outside is actually a huge retreat studio that it can house up to 12, it can seat up to 12, but the sweet spot really for lots of good room is really 10 quilters.
That is so cool. So then you opened this last summer for your first.
Yeah, it was August-ish, July,
Mhm.
August. I literally launched it, and then of course, you're in marketing, so it's been about marketing that it's new and that it's out there. And it will sleep 6 inside, and then we have 2 RV spots. So for RV quilters, they can plug in, there's the hookups and everything. And then literally 3 weeks ago, my grandparents' home, they've passed, they've been gone. We converted that to an Airbnb, and it's on the river. And so now I can have groups like up to 10. So some sleep down there, some are at where the retreat center is, and it's all right there. You can just walk
Yeah.
between the two, and it will comfortably house 12 or 10 people.
That's so cool. And so that's both you're holding retreats there, but then it's also a center that other people can rent. I was on your website looking at it, like
Yeah.
dreaming.
So
Yeah.
actually, it is I have a kind of a different business model. So what happens is it's group coordinator led. Because I do so many other things, I don't have time to worry about finding people, put them in rooms, who's going to snore, who doesn't, who needs a noisemaker, who doesn't. I didn't want to get into all of that. So it's group coordinator led, meaning one person in their group contacts me to say there's a group of 8 of us or 6 of us or what have you. And I communicate with that person. And then they send out the liability waivers, the welcome manual, all of that to their quilty friends that are coming. And they get a gift. So I have 14 sponsors. SewTites is one of them, which, we have the lovely magnetic spinning, rotating magnetic mat that's there. And you guys have sent some stuff for the welcome bag. So they get a gift. They get a Yazzie bag, and they also get a Gypsy Quilter mug holder for their sewing machine. There's a little bit more involved as a group coordinator. However, if a group wants me to teach something, they can add on that to the cost of their lodging to stay there. They can add on for me to teach a class.
That's so cool. It's so cool because I know a lot of like guilds and groups of just friends want to do events, and having one place that's set up for quilters, right? Because if you get an Airbnb, then everybody's got to bring the cutting mats and the sewing machines, and is there enough plugs? And I love that you have it all set up with all the tables
Yeah,
and all that good
and
stuff.
what's nice is we rent it as an Airbnb when I don't have quilt retreats here. So the door that goes out into the studio locks from the studio side. So when Airbnbers are here that are not quilters, then they can't go out that door. There's not a lock to unlock. They're blocked from that, so I don't have to worry about theft or them getting out there and messing with anything. But everything's there. There's the irons, the pressing stations, the rotary cutters, the mats, the notions. Benartex sends fabric, so everyone gets like a quarter bundle or um, a charms um, a charm pack or anything like that. They get when they come. So we've got AccuQuilt dies there and the cutter, and there's a big screen TV. Sewing Machines Plus sent the mat. So when you put your sewing machine on a mat, you've got those nice rubber mats to help with any kind of vibration and any of that. We got Arrow sewing chairs. So everything's there. You just need to bring really your sewing machine and your project. I even have a little Notion shop that's kind of an honor system. If you forget thread or thimbles or need fabric, you can get into that big, huge glass case and get what you need. And then if I'm in town, I always make a homemade pie and I deliver that for them. And if they want me to take any photos or anything, I'll do that too. So it's fun. I love to host. I love people and their stories. And I know I enjoy retreats. So it's just wonderful. I'm grateful we can share this with other people because it is a beautiful 45 acres that they can walk on trails up on the bluffs. Down at the river, they can swim. And it's just a special place for our family. So I'm excited to be able to share that with others.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love that you've done that. So I want to let everybody know if you're watching, if you leave a comment, you'll be entered to win a magnetic pin and snips holder. At the end here, we'll do a drawing. And if you have any questions for Belle or for me, put them in the comments now. We will see those and we will answer them. But I want to ask you about the quilt that's behind you because that is absolutely beautiful. And I think that's one of your upcoming patterns. Yeah?
It is. This is my Friendship Blooms quilt, and it will release a week from today on Friday the 14th. And so, what's unique about it is, I kind of like things sometimes that are unique. And that is, this is actually a quilt block, but there's no curves because these blooms, these actually represent dogwoods that are here on the property and here in Arkansas. So, they are actually appliqued on top of the block. So after you make the block, you applique them on. There's two pieces here, and I'll show you in a little bit how I use the magnetic cutting mat for these. But it's still confident beginner friendly, and I have some testers that made some amazing versions. I'm getting ready to start sharing all the fabrics they used. I actually used solids this time because this is going to be hanging at QuiltCon in the Benartex booth.
Yeah.
I'm a new Benartex fabric designer, and my first collection won't come out until Quilt Market in the fall. So I'm really kind of using their solids right now, and it can be modern, or depending on if you use other fabrics, it can look a little bit more traditional. So it was a fun way to take a traditional block. And as you can see, it's actually part of the logo for my Quilt Retreat Center. And then I also have stickers with the same block that says "Make Lovely Things," which is my slogan.
I love that, and I love that applique. I think I saw on Instagram you were like cutting it out, or and you were also showing how to use a specific foot on your machine for doing that applique. And I just love
Yeah.
that. I feel like applique is kind of the next step because I love to do EPP because it's handwork and I can do
Mhm.
it, on my couch with my kids around. And that applique, it's so beautiful.
Well, I think one of and I didn't know about it because I had designed this pattern actually. I designed it last spring. And someone had told me when they came back from Quilt Market this last time that one of the new trends that people are wanting to see are more piecing and applique quilts where you got the combination of the both. So I was thrilled because I was like, oh, I've already designed that. And that was really the only way to get, because there's templates that you get with the pattern. That
Hmm.
was really the only way to do this for a confident beginner. So you're not having to sew curves. You're not having to, I should say, you're not having to piece curves. I mean, you sew the curve as far as sewing it onto your quilt block with your machine,
Hmm.
but it's just super easy. And so if you look on my Instagram, you'll see some of the tutorials where I'm using the templates and then the SewTites rotating cutting mat. It's super helpful for tracing.
Yeah. So can you show us how you're doing that? I don't know if we got the camera angle to make that work.
Yeah, I will actually, because there are boosters. So you all know there's these boosters that hold things to this mat. So I'm just going to hold it up for you here. So what'll happen is I have medium weight heat and bond interfacing, and you cut a square and you will lay this template on top of that square. And then I get a blue clover marking pen. And as I spin the mat, I just trace all around as I move the mat. So my pen actually stays kind of in place, and then I move the mat and it just kind of, goes around. So this shape, and then also the hexy shape, which is actually the flower center, you do the same thing with that. And what happens is after I've traced that, then you can see this is what it looks like on the back. You cut a slit and you turn it right side out. Now you don't press it yet because there's glue, there's that sticky on the back here, but you'll actually, there's a little technique where you fold this in half to find the center, and you fold this in half to find the center that's been turned right side out, and then you'll just line them up there. And then that is pressed onto the block that you've pieced. Now, I actually use also this rotating magnetic cutting mat because there's a little bit of trimming on, there's just, I believe, 4 half square triangles in these blocks. The rest are the stitch and flip method because I don't love tons and tons of half square triangles. So I made it pretty simple. And you don't have flying geese. I mean, there are flying geese, but the method is flip and stitch rather than, the other way. So I use that rotating cutting mat for the block and then also for this piece here.
It's so cool that it fits perfectly on there. Like if the
It
mat was
does.
really
I mean,
smaller.
look at that shape. Like it's the right shape. It's like a 9-inch square, and then when you cut this down, it just fits perfect on top of it. So this was handy to have at just the right time because I've got 4 sizes of this quilt. And so the one behind me is actually turned sideways, and it's I think this one is 12 blocks. They're 18 inches. So I'm all about a quick block and a quick patch. So I like larger blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I love when you don't have to make I get bored making the same thing over and over. Like I haven't followed many quilt patterns because I tend to just kind of go with what I want to do. There's a word for that where you don't have a pattern. But when
Improv?
Yes,
Improv?
exactly, improv. And when I have had a pattern, I want it to be just as big so I don't make 500 of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Same.
I also do EPP, which is 500 small somethings, but that just seems more doable to me.
Yeah, and I'm a big EPP too. I love EPP, and my favorite of all of y'all's is the dots. So these are what I use because when I travel, I take my EPP with me on the plane, in the car, all of that. So when I discovered these a number of years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, these are way better than using little clover clips to hold everything together.
Yeah. Well, because your thread gets wrapped around the cover clip.
It does. Yeah, this was like a game changer for sure. So I love these, and I use them a lot. People ask me about them when I'm on, at different places. Like, what is that? So
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing them. I'm so glad you like them. And
I do.
Lucky Burrito just said, I just ordered my first SewTites for my EPP. Yay!
Oh, yay! Oh, well, good. Well, you will love them. I mean, and she probably knows there's all shapes, different kinds. Actually, I know a lot of long arm quilters that will use the long ones, and they'll use the magnets to keep the batting and the backing and all of that on their long arm to keep it all kind of connected. So they're just really versatile, and I love that they have a little needle on them here. I think I might need to have one made with like a little flower or something on it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta message us about custom ones. We have the
Okay.
The Laura Heine. These are on our website right now, and they're on her website. The Laura Heine.
Oh, okay. I'll have to reach out.
A pack of 4, and so anybody can. We actually just put together the information on custom SewTites for people who want to have options.
Yeah.
Lucky Burrito says, I'm brand new to EPP, but I love it. Yay, I'm so glad to hear it.
So good for you. Yeah.
If y'all are watching live, leave a comment on either Facebook or YouTube. It doesn't matter how you're watching. On YouTube, I think it's the live chat. You want to leave a comment and you'll be entered to win a magnetic pin and snips holder. And I'm going to do that drawing in just a minute. So leave a comment now
Well,
because
and I was going to say to Lucky Burrito, congratulations. I did not think I would ever want to do EPP, but once I did it and I learned how to do it, like and have a system, I just fell in love with it. And I ended up creating beginner EPP kits that I sell online because people were like, Belle, I think I want to try this, but I don't want to buy all these things. And so congratulations. There's some videos on my YouTube. If you need to learn Lucky Burrito on what to do, you can check those out and I walk you through the whole thing.
yes, and we will link to the retreat center and your do you have a link for the new pattern yet? Because it's releasing next week.
Yeah, it releases next week. So that's just, you can just do on my product page on my website. It'll be there live first thing Friday morning. That will be there. And yeah, the retreat stuff's on there, my blog, YouTube channel, everything's right there.
Awesome. Well, let's do this giveaway drawing. Let me share my screen. It always takes a second. Okay, so y'all can see. Luck. Oh, it's gonna. Winner, Lauren
Ah,
McCoy.
yay,
Congratulations, Lauren.
Lauren.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Email us info@sewtites.com. Info@sewtites.com. Say that you were the giveaway winner from today's Spotlight Live. Ashley is always watching these videos, so hi, Ashley. And
Hey,
she will.
Ashley. I
She
got
will
to meet Ashley in person. I think we'd met one other time, but like we actually got to
Mhm.
spend a little time together. She was at Road to California, and
Yes.
we got to spend a little time together. She's just a dear.
Yes, well, she told me when I mentioned that we were doing a spot live, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love Belle! Yeah, you're gonna have a
Oh,
great time." So she loved meeting you
yeah,
too. So
she's
Ashley is our
sweet.
amazing shipping and customer service person. So if you've ever ordered any SewTites, Ashley has got them in the mail to you. If you found them in your fabric shop, your local quilt shop, Ashley sent them to them. And if you ever have any issues or we have a really generous return or guarantee policy, Ashley is a person who manages that, and she is amazing. So Lauren, email info@sewtites.com and tell her, and I will let her know that you're emailing, and we'll send you one of these out. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everybody who's watching, and thank you, Belle, for joining me. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. You guys just check, follow me along on Instagram if you want, or you can go to my website. It's seamsewme.com. And thanks for having me, Tara. You know, y'all are always fun to email with and see at shows and things like that. And again, I've never had any problems or had to send anything back with any of your products. And they make my projects a lot easier. So I'm grateful. I have a grateful heart.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. We'll see you all later this month. We will be talking to Stitch with Rachel about EPP. So make sure you've subscribed on YouTube or you follow us on Facebook and you will get that notification. So thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.
Bye, everyone.